Heading into week 7 of the fantasy football season, I am giving you my starts and sits at the wide receiver position. I'm not going to tell you to start guys like Cooper Kupp and Justin Jefferson. I'm going to try and give you guys that are on the edge and hopefully give you confidence in some of these fringe guys based off of matchups and situations. Right now, you got the Bills, the Rams, the Vikings, and the Eagles all on bye. So a lot of you are probably, a lot of you watching this would have wide receivers who are on byes this week. Do us a favor, drop a like, subscribe, and why don't you comment down below and tell me a player that you have to start because of bye weeks this week. All right, my first start of the week is Rondale Moore versus the New Orleans Saints. And this is a Thursday night football game. So I'm putting a lot on myself right now because this video will be out all week and I will either have a hit on this or I will have missed. I'm aware. I really like this matchup though. They're going up against the New Orleans Saints, who currently give up the 7th most points to fantasy wide receivers. D-Hop is back, which is great for this offense as a whole. But more importantly for Rondale, it sucks for this player, but Hollywood Brown is going to be out for some time with that foot injury. We don't know how long it's going to be, but he will not be playing in this game, and it will be a multi-week absence. If you look at Greg Dortch's role from weeks 1 to 3, he was averaging 6.5 receptions, 7.6 targets, and 66 yards a week. And since Rondale has come back, he has taken over that Greg Dortch role entirely. In fact, in the last 2 weeks, week 5, 7 catches on 8 targets for 68 yards. Week 6, 6 receptions on 10 targets for 49 yards. This is what I kind of see for Rondale Moore. And with Hollywood Brown out, this probably opens up more opportunities for Rondale in this offense. I'm expecting around a 5 to 7 catch game, anywhere around 8 to 10 targets, and around 50 to 70 yards. Hopefully he gets into the end zone to really boost that upside. But I'm starting Rondale Moore as not a desperation, but like a flex to kind of cover off these bye weeks. And I think he's actually a good buy low right now as well. My second start of the week is Allen Lazard or even Romeo Doubs versus the Washington Commanders. Commanders currently give up the 6th most points to fantasy wide receivers. And as someone who supports this team, I was born into it. I really hate that I was, but I support the Washington Commanders. I know Ron says that quarterback play was our biggest problem, but anyone who's watching this game can actually tell you that the offensive line and our secondary is actually our biggest problem. Kendall Fuller, William Jackson, and company are giving up a ton of yardage through the air on a weekly basis. Now you have an angry Aaron Rodgers who's coming off back-to-back losses, which doesn't happen very often for him in his career. And this is the perfect get-right game for Aaron Rodgers and this air attack. In the past 3 weeks, Allen Lazard is averaging 4.6 receptions on 8.3 targets for 75.6 yards and 0.6 touchdowns. Allen Lazard averaging 16.2 fantasy points in the past 3 weeks. Both Lazard and Doubs can be started as flex options here heading into week 7. My third start of the week is Amari Cooper at the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens currently give up the 4th most points to fantasy wide receivers. They've been better in recent weeks, but they're still a very beatable defense if the right combination of players are there. Outside of week 1 and 4, Amari Cooper has been an incredible start this year. In the last 2 games, he has 12 targets and a touchdown in both matchups. It's clear that he is by far the most talented receiving option in this offense. And even with Jacoby is looking his way. So he's a safe play. You got Lamar Jackson on the other side, who's probably going to be able to put up points against this defense. So Amari Cooper, I think you should feel confident to start him as a wide receiver 2 this week. My 4th start of the week is T. Higgins versus the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta currently gives up the 3rd most points to fantasy wide receivers. And AJ Terrell is also dealing with an injury, their best cornerback there in Atlanta. This offense without T. Higgins and with T. Higgins is vastly different. He is a key piece to this offense's success. Now, there could be some people out there who are worried about starting T. Higgins because the last 2 weeks he's been dealing with an ankle injury. 1 week he laid a goose egg. He didn't really play at all, even though we thought he would. Last week put up about 10 points. But he is a key piece in this offense. And he has had at least 7 targets in every game this year, except for those games that he's left due to injury. In those games, he is averaging 6 receptions on 9 targets for 83.7 yards through the air and a half touchdown. He is averaging 17.3 fantasy points in those games where he has finished. Start him with confidence as a wide receiver 1/fringe wide receiver 2 this week versus the Falcons. My 5th start of the week is ALEC Pierce at the Tennessee Titans. Someone that I told people on our Dynasty channel, to trade for about 3 weeks ago now. And I've been talking about him on our waiver show as well on this channel for quite a while. Tennessee is their matchup. Tennessee gives up the most points to fantasy wide receivers. And Pierce has 3 weeks in a row of consistency, scoring at least 12 fantasy points. And while he is the deep ball threat there in Indy, with Ashton Dulin completely out right now, he's also being used in the short game and slants across the middle of the field in those kind of scenarios. And Matt Ryan is really starting to grow trust with him. Came back from a concussion in week 3, and since then is averaging 12.5 points in fantasy. Scored his first touchdown last week, now faces Tennessee. Matt Ryan, trust him. I think you can start him as a flex option here in week 7. My 6th start of the week, I wanted to give you an option that is very not obvious and that is probably on a lot of people's benches that, you know, people are wondering if they can be able to start this player because he hasn't really had a breakout game just yet. That is Michael Gallup versus the Lions. And again, for people who are dealing with injuries or covering off bye weeks, Michael Gallup has a good matchup. The Lions currently give up the 9th most points to fantasy wide receivers. And in the past 2 weeks, Michael Gallup has had 6 targets per game. Now he gets Dak Prescott back. Dak Prescott always had a better connection with Michael Gallup than Cooper Rush. This whole Cooper Rush and Noah Brown connection that's been there, that's because they both were backups. Now you get the starter back in. He has a connection already with Michael Gallup. And now we're a couple weeks removed from coming back from the first game of that ACL recovery. I think he's going to be a pivotal part of this team moving forward. So Michael Gallup can be a flex option this week. And to finish off, I'm going to give you 3 sits of the week at the wide receiver position. Number 1, sit JUJU Smith-Schuster at the 49ers. San Francisco currently gives up the 5th fewest points to fantasy wide receivers. And this was a perfect week to really sell high on JUJU. Badaki brought him as a sell high in our trade video. I also agree. JUJU has been inconsistent all year. He's had 10 points as a finish, then 4, then 14, then 9, then 6, and now 22. It's been up, it's been down, but most of the weeks that you have confidently started him, you have been disappointed. So Pat Mahomes has already told us he's going to spread the ball. I believe him. I'm not starting JUJU this week. My second sit of the week is any Jets wide receiver at the Broncos. The Broncos currently give up the 3rd fewest points to fantasy wide receivers. We just watched Mike Williams get absolutely shut down by Pat Surtain in this defense. Broncos give up the 3rd fewest points to fantasy wide receivers. And this offense looks completely different with Zach Wilson compared to Joe Flacco. With Joe Flacco, it was a very pass-happy offense. Now everything runs through Breece Hall. And can you blame them? They're 4-2. Last week, Elijah Moore didn't have a target. Garrett Wilson had 1 catch. Corey Davis had 2 catches. I just don't know who you can start in this offense. And if they're going to be successful, it's going to be through their running backs. My 3rd sit of the week is any Titans wide receiver versus the Colts. Indianapolis gives up the 2nd fewest points to the wide receiver position. Bad matchup. No clear wide receiver with any sort of ceiling. Robert Woods might be an okay start, but it's just so impossible to say. If this team wins, it will be because of Derrick Henry. Those are my starts and my sits of the week at the wide receiver position. Comment down below. Let me know if you have any questions. If you disagree, if you want to add any knowledge in the comments. Huge love and good luck this week.
Yo, what's good? Thanks for watching. We got a lot more videos.
A lot more.
If you want more videos,
watch it.
You can also subscribe
right now
if you want to.
You need to.
And lastly, don't forget that you can sign up to support the show and get exclusive content by going to patreon.com/FantasyLand fam.